Hey, what's going on, y'all? This is Roscoe here for another episode of DC University. Today we're going to be talking about math, stats specifically, and how this game uses them. I think it's probably the most important part of figuring out the damage and what's the best route for builds and rotations. But nobody uses it because nobody necessarily does the research or knows how to use it. So I'm gonna teach y'all a little bit, and hopefully this will help some of y'all. You can start doing your own calculations and really get down to the facts of what's better for a rotation. Is it better to spam pacifying strikes, or is it better to do hope weave? This is gonna help y'all make decisions like that, because really it's the math that wins. It's undeniable. It always wins. It always tells the truth, as long as you do it correctly. So here we go. First thing to go over is the way we figure out how they go about, basically the way we figure out what each ability's superpower modifier is. Okay, now a superpower modifier is essentially a percentage of the might. So if we go over here to our stats and highlight might, it says might determines the damage of your superpowers, and then it shows you the equation. Okay, superpower damage equals superpower modifier times might. Okay, so if you take superpower modifier and you turn it into percentage, it goes superpower damage equals percentage of might. So if the superpower modifier is 12, you're going to get 12% of your might equals the superpower damage. In order to calculate that, you're going to take your total might, which is displayed in your stats page, and multiply it times your superpower modifier. But remember, it's a decimal, or it's a percentage, so you would move the decimal point over 2 spaces and then multiply that number times your might. So if it's 12, it would be 0.12 times your might equals the amount of damage that superpower is going to be doing. So in order to figure that out, you have to get down to a base amount, because if you try to calculate it when there's might multipliers or might modifiers added on, you don't actually get to the real value. It's skewed, like, so for instance, if I was in a league and I get the might buff, it's a 3% might gain. Now that is enough to throw off calculations. That's where people are like, well, it says it's this, but it's really not. And it's like, well, that's because you're not calculating off of the actual base value. If you get the base value, then you actually know what the real the percentage point is, and then you can get the correct equation. So you're going to get, you have to have a tune that is level 30, and you have to have you can't have you can't have armor, you can't have mods, augments, you can't have anything. You can't have generator mods and nothing. It's basically just what that tune in that power, because base value of might is. So if you look right here, I don't have any mods, nothing. Okay, I don't even have the rings, because look, this one has 1% might on it. That would skew things. Okay, I don't have any armor. I don't have a base to even have generator mods. Literally fresh level 30. Here, let me show you the warp, just so you know I'm not lying and I'm not making mistakes. No, look, not even a base, nothing. He's homeless. Okay, so the one thing that we would want to be careful of is we're gonna go damage. So we're in damage roll right now. Okay, damage roll gets a 10% damage buff. So even in damage roll, you would have to subtract 10% of what you're seeing, you know, damage wise, to know, okay, what it is. So we're gonna try doing it like this, where we're gonna go switch roll. Okay, so now we're in tank roll, right? Tank roll doesn't get 10% damage buff. Tank roll gets tank roll gets 65% defense while not blocking, 3% perception, blah blah blah, 20% health, 3% perception. So there's no damage buff there whatsoever. So what we get as far as damage caused by snowball with 239 might, and this is how you figure out what your superpower modifier is. So okay, you got 35, 35, and it's always going to be a range. Level 30 CR0, that's what you want to see. Okay, so 35 was what we were getting. 35, 36. Okay, so 35, 36. So what we're going to calculate now is what percentage is 35 of 239. So we type that into Google or whatever web browser you might want. So what percent is 35 of 239? 14.6. So it's probably a superpower modifier of 15. 15%. That's what Snowball's damage is going to be. It's always going to be 15% of what your might is. Okay, now calculating might it's not as complicated as it might seem, but you basically add up all of your stats, so from your armors, from your mods, from all of that, and you lump all that together, and then you factor in the might modifiers. Now the might modifier is going to be any percentage might gain. So the White Lantern ring power array had 1% might gain, so that's a might modifier. So you would add that into, let's see, the stats. If I specialize into superpowered focus, it's going to give me 10% additional might, so that's a might modifier. So that would be 10% from this might modifier, 1% for the ring modifier, so together we have 11% of might modifier. So then you add up all those might modifiers, whatever that percentage total is, you multiply that times the might that you have with all of that added together, and then whatever percentage, whatever amount the might modifier percentage is, times the might, whatever that total is, you add that to the lump sum, and that's what that's what you multiply your superpower modifier by, or or you ask yourself, like in the case of Snowball, what did we say? It was 15. What 15% of what total might, the superpower modifier and all that calculated, what percentage is 15% of that? And then that'll give you what your actual damage is gonna be. So I know it sounds like kind of a lot, but it's really not. But the important thing is you had to get it to the right amount. If I had been off, I would have been like, oh, well, my superpower modifiers is 16, it's 16%, and it's not saying that they something's wrong with, no, there's nothing wrong with the game. They're not lying to you. They're not trying to deceive you. You have to cancel out and get rid of all the variables to get to the actual base amount, to understand or to correctly calculate what the modifier is, the superpower modifier, the percentage point is. So with that being said, if you want to figure out what your superpower modifier is for all those powers that don't have it listed. Now all the new ones do, and it's a lot easier, but the old ones don't. You have to do this. You have to get a tune, level 1 to 30, and strip it down, and then do some damage, and ask what the percent of that damage you got, what percent of your might is that damage that you got, and that'll give you your superpower modifier. So once again, I'll just kind of go over it. So when I do Snowball and I get 35, what percent of $239 is 35, and you get 14.7 or whatever, so 15. You round up, always round to the closest decimal point, because that's what is going to happen here. So okay, so that's how you find your superpower modifier. Now, stats, skill points. Skill points are very important. Don't listen to anybody who says they're not. Are they going to be the reason why you do 200 million more damage than somebody? If 200 million equals 17% of that damage, then yeah, because essentially that's what the gain you're going to get is. If you were to max out all the might, you're going to get like a 17% gain in damage. Now there are clearly soft caps, they're plateaus when using skill points. The first one being, believe it or not, the number 1 point. Okay, like you put the first point in for a skill point and it gives you 80 might. Okay, you put number 2 in and it gives you 1. So it's like right away your skill point loses value right at number 2. It's kind of a weird thing, but that's what it does. Think of it as peaks and valleys. It's not a progressive steady climb up. It goes up and then it goes down, and it goes up and then it goes down, and then it goes up and then it goes down. It's always moving up progressively, but it fluctuates. Okay, and what you want to do is try and use your skill points when you're at that amount to where it's at like the highest, right before it's about to fall off. So and a good example of that is when you get to 100 skill points. Okay, you get to 100 skill points in any of the precision, resto, dom. What you're gonna have is a flat amount plus a percentage amount, the percentage modifier. Okay, after that you don't get any percentage modifiers. It's just a steady climb of just raw stats, which are nice. It's nice, but it's not the percentage. It's not the modifier. So we're gonna go ahead and put 1 point in superpowered focus. Let's see. And the power region, the 25% power region is amazing. That's why people choose this over hybrid. If somebody's wondering, don't ever choose hybrid, honestly, because it's just and it in no way is as good as what superpowered focus is, because the power region, you're not really worried about having to recoup power. It's going to do it for you. Just stop casting, for a few seconds if you need it. Okay, so anyway. Oh, excuse me, sorry. So traits, stat points, 1 point, so that's 10% might. Okay, so now crit doesn't actually affect your base value of any damage, but it does affect the high end. When it crits, it's gonna be for a substantially large amount more than what it was when it didn't crit. Most of the time it's double, if not triple the amount. But anyway, so we're gonna do 10 points in crit chance, just so we can move down to the next one, which is crit damage. So crit chance and crit damage, very different. Okay, crit chance, how often are you, what are the chances you're going to crit? And crit damage is what is the damage when it does crit. Okay, and then so as far as when you're trying to factor or figure out, should I be stacking crit or should I be stacking might? If your superpower modifier is less than your crit damage multiplier, as in your crit magnitude, so like right now, if I put 10 points in here, and I go to my stats page, my crit damage multiplier for abilities is 45%. So if my superpower modifier is greater than 45% right now, I want to stack might. If it is less than, I want to stack crit. The reason being is you're going to, which one is going to award you more damage? The crit multiplier is a lot easier to figure out. The superpower modifier takes a little bit more work, but ultimately it's the same thing. It's a percentage point. It's a percentage point of the might. Okay, the 45%, critical ability attack damage. 45% gain of what? 45% gain of the base damage. Okay, that's might is basically the base damage. You if I had an ability that had no superpower modifier on it and it was only going to hit for what my might is, that it would always, it would always equal what my might does. But because of the modifier, that's where it skews, and it's like, okay, well, it's not 1 point, it's not 1 for 1. It's not like, oh, okay, well, I add 1 point of might, and that means that my snowball damage should go up by 1. That's not what it is, because the superpower modifier is a percentage of what the might is. So the critical ability attack damage is a percentage of what the damage is. So, like I said, if you're trying to figure out if you should stack crit or not, you've had to figure out what your superpower modifier is, and if it is like I said, if it is less than what your critical ability attack damage percentage is, you need to stack crit. If it is more than what your critical ability attack damage percentage is, then you stack might, okay? Because it's going to it's going to damage it is going to gain more damage from a single point of might than it is from a percentage of crit. Yeah. So that's just something to think about. So we've got ten points in crit chance, 10 points in crit crit magnitude, our critical attack damage. So now we're gonna jump into the might. First skill point, look, gives you 80 might, 300 power. It's like, man, 80 per point, that's pretty good. So we put 1 point in there. And it'll give us 80 might. This is the first actual, technically, like, fall off, or it's not a diminishing return, but it is the first sort of soft cap. It's the first sort of soft cap, if you will, is the first skill point, because you add 2, and look, it gives you 1 might. All right, the next soft cap would be at 5 points, where you get 1% power, and then the value falls off again. All right, so at 80 extra might, I'm going to show you this. So at 80 might, 80 additional might, we had 239. With 239 might, we were doing 35. Yeah, 35. We're doing at 239 might, we were doing 35 damage per snowball. Now we're just added 80. Does that mean that it's going to be 80 additional damage? No, it does not. What it means is it's going to be, you take 14% or 15%, because that's the superpower modifier. 15% times 80, so 0.15 times 80 will get you, sorry, 1 second, 0.15 times 80 will award you 12. So it should be 35 plus 12 is 47. So the damage of snowball should now be 47 with that 1 point. Oh wait, and remember, we also have this might modifier. So it's actually, it would be 0.15 times 88. Because remember, it's a might modifier, and we're adding 80 might from the skill point, that one skill point. So, and then 10% of 80 is 8, so 88 times 0.15 equals 13.8. So 13 should be 13 additional damage, so it should be 35 plus 13 is 48. So it should be 48, a range, 48 to say 51. So let's give it a try. See if I'm an idiot or not. 51? Oh. So 51 to 54. All right, so my range was a little bit off. Might be a dumbass. Sorry. But I'm close enough. But that'll show you, like, and really what it is there's a small amount that I'm not accounting for, and it might be remember I rounded up to 15, maybe what it is it's really the 14.7 times 88. Because that would make it 0.147 times 88. 12.9, so 13. So yeah. Anyway, I'm sure I'm missing something somewhere. I'll have to go back and figure that out. But point being, I forgot what my point was. Point being, that's how you find your superpower modifier, and that's what that's what the gain was on the first stat point. Now you have the second stat point. It falls off a cliff. It's your first soft cap. So the next soft cap is going to be at 5 skill points, because that gives us a percentage increase, a might modifier of 1%. I think that's actually probably what it is I multiplied the might modifier times, when what I should have done is added the 80 might to the 239, and then multiplied, and then factored in the might modifier, gotten that total, and then multiplied that total by the superpower modifier, which was 14.7, and then that would have gotten me the amount that I was looking for. So that's what I did wrong. When most people other people are calculating this stuff, they're doing the same thing. At least the ones that are complaining about it not being accurate and they're being lied to and those aren't the real numbers, those people have made mistakes just like I did in their calculations. Usually that's what it is. They've left something out, or they've added something when they should have subtracted. Or always remember, you got the order of operations, okay? Parentheses, exponent, multiply, divide, add, subtract. Okay, so let's see. At 5 skill points, we're gonna get 1% gain in the might modifier, and we're gonna get not very much base might. So you're looking at maybe a total damage increase of maybe 4. Maybe. So not very much. All right, so we're just gonna skip ahead to the 100. Okay, so we're gonna go to 95. Actually, I'm going to show y'all let's see what the damage is right now with 5 skill points so we can compare. Okay, so we got 54, 55, 53. So let's do 53 to 56, okay? And that's at 1%. So now let's do 6%, halfway to 10. I know 5 is halfway to 10, but we just looked at 1, so yeah. All right. 6% would be, I believe that's 30 skill points. So let's add 25. Because it goes up, first it's increments of 5 skill points, and then it's increments of 10, and then at 60, it goes up to increments of 20 skill points. It will gain you a 1% gain in a 1% gain in the might modifier. So, what did I say? We were going to do 25 for 30. Should be 6. Oh, okay, it's 5. Okay, So anyway, that's fine though. Okay, so now we're at 119 might, and a 5% gain will award us. And what was the number before? It was 56. I don't know. I can't remember. So 61, 65. Yeah, that sounds about right. Okay, so 61, 65. 61, 65. Let me jot this down so I don't forget it. Okay. All right, so 61, 65. So now we're going to add the rest of the 100. And that's at 5%. So we're going to go to 8%, which would be 60. Yeah. So we're going to look at the difference between 8% might and however, or 8% might modifier and however much might versus 5% might and 120, 5% might modifier and 121. So okay, now we're gonna 30. So we're just gonna see what the difference is. We were doing 61 and 65 damage at the 5%. 30, 30. Too many numbers in my head. Gotta keep them straight. Okay, so 60 gets us 8%. Yeah. Okay. So at 30, we were doing 30 at 5% modifier, 30 skill points. We were doing 61 to 65. Now $71 to $75. So the gain's not that much. So now, so 71, 75, what's that one? Let me jot this down again. So 71, 75 at, what was it, 8%? Modifier and 184 might. So now we're gonna do the rest of the, we're gonna go to 100, see what the difference is. So at 100, we've got a 10% modifier, and 321 might. And so the at the 8% it was 71, 75. $98, 106. So as the number goes up, so the might increased by the might increased by 137. So the base might increased by 137. The percentage gain was 2%, obviously. So the difference was roughly 30 30 damage. Yeah, I guess that sounds about right. So we can tell that the difference in skill points when you're going from 8% to 10% is substantial. Now, the difference between 1 and 3% or 0 and 2% wasn't hardly any because it was so low. So as the numbers go up, the percentages obviously have more impact, and thus is why they don't add percentage gains after 100 points, because it would be it would be overpowered. So that's why they go to just a flat amount that just adds to the base amount. So if you go to might, from now on it's just going to add might. So right now it's telling me that it's going to give me 5 additional might if I put another skill point on. Now remember, 5 additional might doesn't mean 5 additional damage. It means 5 additional might onto the base amount times the might modifier times the superpower modifier equals what the actual damage is going to be. Think about that. Let that sink in. So now the question is, the next soft cap, if this is 100 is the first one, or the second one, point number 1 was the first, if all those percentage points were, if 100 is the most recent soft cap, where's the next one? So we're going to start adding points one at a time till we see a big jump in might gains. So we're going to do, so that's 5. It's not much of a jump. 4. Sorry. Okay, so it was 5, and now it's 4, and now I'm gonna add another point. Gosh, I wish I could go the other way with this. 12 is at 374, so back up to 5. Another 5. So we're just gonna speed this up now. We're at, let's see what 7 is. So that's 6 now. Okay, so it's increased by 1. All right, so now let's go to 30. So 418 was 418 to 424. At 120 points. So now let's see what 130 points is. And let's do 140. No, 130. Yeah. Okay, so at 130 points, we're gonna have 480 might. Oh wow, so that was a big jump. 487, so it's increasing by 7 when it was 6 before, and the high end, it was 418 to 424. Now it's 480 to 4. 87. Okay, so now let's go. We're going to jump ahead to, let's do 200. Okay, so 200 is, now we're at 1,290 might, and that increase of 72 to 90 is 18. So it's, the might amount has almost tripled, and we did roughly one third additional. So yeah, we added roughly 30% total skill points and tripled the amount of might we got in return. So the idea of diminishing returns in skill points is incorrect. It's not diminishing returns. It's soft caps, and diminishing returns means that every point you add, the amount you get back, or the reward that you get back, or the gain you get back, gets smaller and smaller and smaller. This does not work that way. It goes bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it falls off. And then it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and then it falls off. So the real question is, where does it fall off next? Let's say 200. All right, let's do 250. Let's do 240. Let's do 225, because 450 is the max right now. So we'll see what 225 is. $12.90, $12.72, 18. Oh wait, okay, there you go. I was like, wait a minute. $12.72, so that was it. $200, so $225. We're at 1801. 1826. So that's 25 gain per skill point. So in a gain of 25 skill points, there was a markup of thank you for your patience. 1826 minus 1290, 536. So there was a markup of 536 skill points, or 536 might, in 25 skill points. And before, alright, so 225 is not the soft cap. Let's see, let's keep going. Let's do 250. We'll add another 25. Now the fun one is actually going to be when we do dominance and resto and figure out the gain of the shielding. That's going to be the one. It's like, I'll probably put that one in another video. This might be enough math for today. Okay, so 250, 2,550. And that's another, wow, that one jumped way up. So we're now at 35. We gained 35 per skill point. So before, the last one was 25, and we gained 25 skill points, and now we're 35 might. So, okay, so like I said, there isn't, it's not a diminishing return. It falls off. It falls off after 100, because it should, because you're no longer going to get a percentage, a might modifier. It's just going to be a flat amount. So then, let's see. Okay, if we're at 450 for this chapter, let's say, and they add what, 10 every single, every chapter. So 440, 430, 420. Let's look at 380. So we're gonna add 70. No. Let's look at 350 and add another 100. Big jump. So we added 100 skill points, and it went from 2550, 2,550 to 10,240. So and that was 100 skill points, 250 and 100, 50% roughly. So yeah, and then the gain is 10,240, 384, so that's 144 byte per point. Oh, excuse me. Yep. So yeah. So moral, in conclusion, if your DPS, whatever stat you're going for, whether it's precision or might, you stack every single skill point into it, and you don't put it in anything else until you max that one out, because the gain is worth it, and that's the way to do it. Don't try to do a hybrid. Don't try to do a little bit in precision, a little bit in might. You're doing yourself a disservice and shooting yourself in the foot. Go all in on one stat, and then once you get that one maxed out, then you can put it in other stats if you want. As far as the support roles, you're going to do the stats you need. You're going to go to 100, 100, 100, 100, and then whatever main stat you're looking for, then you go back and you max that one out. Okay, so like fire tank, you're going to put 100, you're going to go down the resto, you're going to put 100 in resto, then you're going to put 100 in dominance, and then you're going to put 100 in health, and then you're going to go 100, or then you're going to max out health, or you max out health, and then you could go back, you could do dom, and then finish up with resto. So just to review, remember, Superpower Modifier is a percentage of your might. In order to calculate a Superpower Modifier, you have to get down to the bare bones base amount of might, and then test the damage, and then remember the equation. What percentage is the damage of the might, and that will get you your superpower, your Superpower Modifier. Okay, and then skill points are good. You should do feats as many as you can. Skill points are worth it, and you need skill points. And anybody that tells you that they're not good doesn't know what they're talking about, or doesn't know how to do the math. Okay, so that's enough for today. I will actually do a skill points study for dominance and resto as far as shielding, and we can figure that stuff out again. But for now, this is a good start. I hope y'all have enjoyed. I know it was a bit long-winded, but it really needed to kind of be spelled out. So yeah, thank you so much for watching and listening, and I'll talk to you later.